What is up? This is Dean, and you are watching the One Leg at a Time podcast. And I'm about to present to you my first interview. This interview is with a very talented, very dear friend of mine named Terrell. Harry actually helped me mix the One Leg at a Time theme song. So, he's just an incredible musician, and I value his insight tremendously. This was a great conversation, and it was an interesting one. We kind of covered the spectrum of, because we had both lived in New York City, so we were doing some reminiscing about some of our favorite places to eat and hang out, and we talked about music and relationships and health and drugs and the whole thing. It was a very candid conversation. I think that just really warm afternoon in LA. We had just gotten this great lunch. We were hanging out in his backyard, kind of up in the hills of Encino, and I think that definitely comes through. And, it was an interesting experience for me too, both conducting an interview and then going back and sort of noticing, all right, these are some of my tendencies, these are some of the things. I don't know, it was really good and interesting for me to have this experience, and now I present it to you. One of the things that I was realizing in hindsight was that I have this I love to talk about what exercise does for me, but I don't think I've really figured out how to articulate it yet, because I don't really know how to talk about it, and I don't think that many people really feel the same way. It's not just about how I feel when I look in a mirror or fit into a piece of clothing or whatever. So it's tough, but I'd like to set that as a goal for myself, to be able to do that. That's one thing. And the other thing really is just that I'm thinking about all of the different elements that could go into a channel like this, and I like doing these kind of long form interviews, and I look forward to more. There's more in the pipeline, and I'd also like to find a way to bring in more musical elements, because I am working towards making another record, and the writing process is ongoing, and these things, Rome isn't built in a day, right? And neither is my acoustic EP, but these things do take a little bit of time, but it's getting closer and closer to the finish line, which I'm very excited about, because all things considered, it's happening pretty quickly. I definitely feel motivated. I definitely feel inspired. I've been listening to a lot of music that has just been continuing to push me, so that's awesome. And the other thing is that I'd like to figure out a way to bring in my own experiences with fitness, with food, right? I'll bring you into the kitchen. I'll show you the weird stuff that I cook for myself. I mean, I've gotten pretty dialed in there too, and I think that that's as important as anything. For anybody who's interested, and it's also fun for me to be able to say, hey, look, I just made this little, chicken taco thing that I like it, it's easy. Yeah. As I say that, by the way, Mountain Dew, 0 sugar, Baja Blast, a lot of caffeine, no sugar. Love it. I'm a big fan. Not looking for sponsorship. I'm saying this just strictly as a fan. That stuff is great. Okay. Anyway, go ahead. Let me know what you think about this interview with Harry. Check him out on the Still Woozy tour. I believe he's in Australia right now as I speak. His solo project, which is under his name, Harry Terrell, and his other band, The Breathing Effect, which is awesome. He's great. Eli is great. They're great. So check those things out. Enjoy the talk, and I'll see you next time. I'm falling apart.
It's falling apart at the seams, and there's only one cure for that.
That's true. One leg at a time.
One seam at a time.
Harry, you're my inaugural guest.
I'm so honored.
Yeah?
Honored to be here. Yeah.
I was going to ask you how that made you feel. So honored.
It makes me feel great. Yeah,
that's good.
Well, I mixed the theme song for all you listeners that don't know.
Harry mixed the theme song, and I'm very happy for that.
I loved the theme song. Immediately upon hearing it, I was like, this is This is it.
This is it. I jumped at wanting to get you on because a lot of what I'm talking about on this podcast is like tour stuff,
Yeah.
But it also, I want to know, we want to know about you.
The listeners want to know.
Yeah, the listeners want to know about this, 7 foot,
7'6",
yeah,
7'8".
All this that's going on right here, this
Yeah,
situation.
yeah.
So,
Look.
but we met through Jake Pinto.
That's right. Probably a soon-to-be guest, I'd imagine.
I would imagine too, but he's out on the road
He's
until
out
like
on the road, that's true.
mid-March.
Yeah, he'll be back for a bit though, sometime in February.
Oh, really? Yeah, because I saw their dates and I was just like, man, that's a long
It's a long
stretch.
tour, but they have a week off in the middle.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm sure he'll want to do this. I'm sure he'll want to do it while he's back. Yeah.
He doesn't like to be left out.
No, definitely not. And especially when he sees that you did it, that'll light a fire. I think. Nobody wants to be let out, I mean, left out except for me. I kind of like it. I have the opposite of FOMO. What would that be called?
It's JOMO.
JOMO.
Joy of missing out. Yeah.
I'm not the first.
I was just talking about this actually. Well, I feel like FOMO is something I struggled with a lot. As someone who is an experience junkie, wants to do it all, see it all.
I get it.
Be active all the time.
Yeah.
Did you struggle with FOMO before? You were always trying to be everywhere at once?
Yeah, and especially with like gig stuff and then hang stuff.
Right.
And eventually I kind of lost my ability to like be social. And so, people started to see less and less of me because it was just like my priorities got really, really skewed, where it was just like, getting loaded by myself was more important. It was just like I was doing that everywhere I went.
Right.
And eventually it was just like, oh, well, I mean, I can just, as long as I show up and as long as I'm getting paid, and I can afford to keep the drugs in my pocket, I'm like, I don't really need it to be hanging. But then, getting sober and kind of like withdrawing into my little South Bay recovery hole, I definitely was like, I just didn't have it in me to do anything at that point. But what's cool also is that you've kind of known me like in a bunch of different phases of my life too. So I'm curious to get your perspective on that. But so we met through a mutual friend of ours from New York City. I was living in New York, but we met in LA. That's right. And that was like what, 10 years ago?
Probably not that long. I mean, it would have been, I moved back here in early 2018.
Yeah, but I met you before you moved back.
Really? Is that true?
Yeah. I think I met you at Hotel Cafe.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, then that means we probably met in 2016 or 17.
2016 sounds right.
So that was, almost 9 years.
Because I've lived here for almost 10.
Okay.
Which is crazy.
That's wild, yeah. Yeah, because we probably met playing with Jake.
Yeah.
Playing a Yatones, right?
It was probably a Yatones, yeah.
Probably did a Yatones in 2016.
You had short hair.
I had short hair. You had shorter hair? No, it's probably about the same length, just different color.
It's hard to keep track, but definitely different color. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like in that phase, well, for me, my life was totally in flux because I was in a failing relationship, toying with the idea of moving back to LA from New York City.
Yeah.
Which I eventually did.
And you guys, but you didn't move together, right? Because I remember
No, she moved back to Boston she was like on the medical school track.
Oh, smart.
But we both wanted to, definitely smarter than being a musician.
Yeah.
Both wanted to leave New York for, myriad reasons.
I miss New York sometimes, though.
I do too, but I mean, I found...
It's got to be tough for you. You're so big. New York is for small, thin people.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
it. You got to make a lot of money to be comfortable if you're over 6'2".
And, I wasn't always thin either, so I was big on both accounts.
Yeah,
lots of accounts. But yeah, I mean, I miss it, but I go back for music and for other reasons. Just
I love going back.
Year. I love going back.
I love being a tourist in New York City.
And I'll tell you what, I mean, I didn't really experience this until like the last couple of years, but that city is better with money in your pocket. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Because it's, when you're living there and you're just deep in the hustle and you're like
totally
absorbed by like, you got to pay your rent, but you're trying to make art and you're working these jobs and you're doing all these, you're this random hustle shit. And then it's like, you got to live far away so you can afford things. But then that means you leave your house every morning at fucking whatever. And then, you know, musician schedule, you get home at fucking 3 a.m. Bars don't even close in New York till 4.
Yeah, no, New York City was definitely a late night place. Although I will say this, I always felt like it was more fun to be young and poor in New York than it is to be young and poor in LA. Because you can get on the train and you can go anywhere.
True.
And you can pretty much have an experience, like a guaranteed experience, without really much money in your pocket. I mean, I used to just take like a tab of acid and like ride the subway and just see what happens. I'd go to Prospect Park, and like the adventure of like getting to the park, hanging out, like going to the bodega and get like a soda was just like mind blowing.
Yeah, well,
you know,
Prospect Park is has a magic that you can't is inimitable. You know,
yeah,
you can't find it anywhere else.
It's a good word.
I feel like
did you add an extra inimitable?
No, inimitable.
Yeah, but it sounded good the way you said
imitable,
it.
Like
right, but not that.
But not that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Prospect Park is great. I love it.
I only did acid and went to Prospect Park one time, but it was very memorable.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot.
Yeah. This was kind of another aspect that was interesting to like over the course of knowing you is like I definitely never knew you struggled with addiction issues kind of until you were in the throes of it.
That is
because I feel like we didn't really get that close until the past couple of years. You know?
We didn't get that close until the past couple of years, and I kept my addiction a secret.
Right.
It was like, so when I lived in New York, which is obviously before I knew you, but like those were my drinking days.
Right.
And I was really good at it, but when I moved here, it was like
really good at drinking.
I was really good at drinking. Yeah. And when I moved here, it was like you can't really get away with it the same way.
Yeah.
You know, like you're driving long distances, you're driving fast. And I mean, I still drank a lot, but it was just like pretty quickly I kind of learned here that like if I supplement my drinking with drugs,
you can get through the day.
Yeah, it helps my drinking, but then like I just like taking drugs more. My thing was this. I never wanted to come off or appear to be out of control or like a liability, you know? And there's probably like some sort of like sociopathic element to that, but I was like, I just don't want people to think that I'm a problem.
Well, especially because you're also a musician in a community where you're trying to appear hireable, right?
You want to appear hireable. There's such a misconception about like, oh, musicians party. It's like, I mean, some do obviously, and that's kind of an image in and of itself. But like for the most of like the boots on the ground, like cats who are just playing, you have to be, you know, like timeliness, cleanliness, you know, all of like you have to have your ducks in a row.
Absolutely.
You know, and I wanted my ducks to at least appear to be in a row. And so I just, you know, I kind of kept all that to myself. So no, it's not a surprise to hear you say that. And
was this because you were married? Was this
I was married. So
or this was in the throes of the marriage?
It was while I was married. And when I met my ex-wife and while we were together was just so happened to be at like the time that my usage got like from, how do I put this? Because I was also doing my doctorate.
Becoming out of control.
It was becoming out of control in the sense that I was just starting to develop like a serious physical addiction to painkillers. That was never really a problem, I would say. It was just something I was doing a lot. I started leaning on it really heavily. But before that, even like when I had moved here initially, and I was like, you know, doing my best to go to jam sessions and meet people and whatever, it was just like, I feel a whole lot better if I just pop a little something and then I go and I play great and I'm funny and it's just like, you know, like it was kind of a cure-all.
So you were really leaning on it in a bit of a social way.
Yeah. In kind of in every way.
Kind of greasing the wheels a bit.
My wheels were greased.
Your wheels were greased up.
Yeah. Baby. I was like the fucking countertop at BandH deli. At the same time, like you're about to go on this tour. You know, I have my whole thing about, well, first of all, what's this tour all about? You're going to be gone for a while.
Yeah, I'll be gone for a few weeks.
But then aren't you out for longer after that?
Well, it's basically the second half of a long on and off tour cycle. Um, the artist that I play with, Still Woozy, he put out a record early last year,
Mm-hmm.
and after the record came out, we did quite a long run. It was like,
Yeah, you were gone for a long time.
yeah, I was gone for a long time. Which
6 months?
That's something I kind of want to talk about too, because that's
I
tough,
remember
you know?
seeing you when you had you still had your bags, and it was at Gold Diggers.
Oh, that was fucked.
I remember that.
Well, that was like 2 years ago now. That was
that
back
2 years ago?
That was back in 23, yeah.
Oh my God.
And that was in the middle of a hippies run, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, because it was.
You know better than me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember. Well, you know better than most the ups and downs of my former relationship.
You were going through it.
I was going through it, and that was one of the moments where I was going through it. I was like, get home from a tour, try to work some shit out. Couldn't really work it out that time, but I had just come from the airport.
Yeah.
And I went straight from her house to Gold Diggers, to this fucking jam, and I was a mess. I mostly needed the ride home. I was meeting Jake. He was going to drive me home because he was staying in my parents' house at the time.
That's right.
Oh
my God.
But yeah, I remember showing up to that jam with all my fucking suitcases, and I think I had my cymbals and shit too or something.
It just reminds me of this story. I was on a tour, and I showed up to my dealer's house from LAX with all my bags and my instrument. As I didn't even go home. I was just like, I was, fucking going through it on the plane. Yeah.
Like, I need to re-up right now.
Oh yeah. No, I was dying.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was fun.
Yeah. I mean, I was dying emotionally that day.
It seemed like it. I remember that. And I remember, I mean, look, knowing you now while you were in that relationship, you seem to be in a better place than even in the last few months.
Yeah, I mean, my level of generalized anxiety is so much. I mean, I'm Jewish, so it's always going to be there a little bit. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just at such a high level because I was so concerned with how to be doing right by the relationship.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I never could, and so it was always this there's always this sense of failure I was carrying around.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like if you're on the road, if you're obviously touring is part of your professional life,
Mm-hmm.
what's your concept of a successful relationship while you're doing that?
I mean, I don't know. There were successful moments of the last relationship I had while I was touring, and then there were also very unsuccessful moments.
Would you consider that to be something that you struggled with, in
a huge way?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a huge way. I mean, it was I would be literally in the middle of playing a set and thinking about my relationship problems while I was on a stage in front of 2,000 people, ripping a drum solo. I'm thinking about something I said earlier. It's and and it's the music I was playing is it's pretty set in stone. I don't have to think about it anymore. So it's
sure.
So obviously your mind starts to wander, especially when there's when your brain feels this sort of nervous, you're in danger or something, right? You're kind of. So yeah, I mean, I spent a huge part of 2020. What was it? 2022 and 2023 in immense emotional distress while being far away from my partner.
Well, and that's going to cause you to seek comfort, right? I mean,
totally. Yeah. I was lucky that I was close with a lot of the people I was touring with, so I found a lot of comfort in just talking about relationship issues with people I trusted.
Yeah.
But I definitely was doing a lot of drugs and a lot of drinking as sort of a way to escape.
Yeah.
Which in turn made my relationship worse. So it kind of was this evil cycle that. I mean, the only way that it got relieved was to get home be with my partner, talk it out, try to work out the problems, and then we'd end up being in a good place.
Yeah.
And those moments felt really good. But the attachment was just it was so volatile that it was just constantly weighing on me. And so, yeah, the last few months I still mourn the loss of it, but it's like my level of general stress, like there isn't a ball of anxiety in my chest anymore.
Yeah.
Where there was for literally 2 years.
Sure.
So it's like...
Well, you don't have this huge thing that you're trying to like constantly mend.
Right.
And you can spend that time focusing on yourself.
Yeah, and I totally have been. I mean, I've been like back on my like regular exercise train,
It's so huge, man.
It's such a huge thing. And I wanted to talk to you about this too, because obviously in your recovery you found exercise and you found
I did.
And fitness.
Did I ever tell you this though, that like, okay, so September of 2022, I'm like 6 months in sobriety,
right.
And that was when that was when I got my divorce. That was when like the phone calls were like, we're gonna get divorced,
right. I remember that.
And I'm like out and again on tour with great people, but it was just like such a like literal crossroads that I felt myself at, because I was starting to get into exercise. I was starting to like get into like, okay, I also have a food problem, and if I don't get this under control, I'm gonna have to when I'm like 500 pounds, and it's gonna suck then too. So I wanted to tackle it. I was kind of like motivated to tackle it. I saw that future very clearly. I didn't like feel the mental health benefits from it, and I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
It wasn't much at that point. I was honestly mostly doing like elliptical machine and yoga, but it was enough that it was just like, I'm feeling really good about where I'm at. The fact that I'm going through this like now divorce was sort of like, yeah, this sucks. This is not what I wanted.
It was like an opportunity to shed your skin a bit, right?
Well, this was the thing is like, I remember it so well. I was in Boston and, I was like, I'm going to get divorced. I have nobody really to be accountable to. So I could just like, numb this pain out in the way that I know how, yeah. Which, I know where that goes. Yeah. Like, I'm probably just going to end up having to go back to rehab or die, right. Like they're going to find me in my bunk, like right. OD'd. Like, I don't need that.
Classic musician story.
I like to say, I don't need that, yeah. As though I'd be the one to find myself. Or I can just like not just continue. I doubled down. I was like, all right, I'm running every day. I'm like even more conscious about what I'm eating. It was like, in a way, it was probably like a control thing. It was like, I can
take
focus in on this. Yeah, exactly. But I was having so much fun. That was really the thing. It was just like touring is so much fun. Yeah. And when you're lucky enough to be like in a situation like you're saying, where you are close with the people that you're out with, like, it was just like great. And I was like, I want this to go on forever. And I had so much energy. I was like, I feel amazing. That is a huge thing, yeah. I just felt incredible, And so that was kind of like, really, it was like, I'm going to go this way, Everyone in the band, they still think I'm nuts.
For what?
For being so locked in. For the running and the gym thing and the food thing. I mean, probably the food thing more than anything.
Well, but what kind of food things are we talking about?
Well, my rider is like my Greek yogurt, my lettuce,
That's I feel like that's the only way to remain sustainable in a touring context, to be honest.
I'm with you,
It's actually so, I mean, people are like, wow, touring musician, like that's so crazy, you're living the life. And it's like, yeah, it's an amazing life for sure, but it's like it's also hard.
It's hard.
I mean, you're never home, you're constantly on the move. The comforts of home are nowhere to be found, so you have to like make them for yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to have energy. I mean, it's like, I don't know what it is with Brooks, but when I'm out with Woozy, it's like we're rolling up for a fucking 11 a.m. load-in. I'm there at 1 p.m. to set up, and then we're doing like sound check from 2:30 to 5:30.
Yeah, it's the same.
And then we play the show from, there's an opener, and then we play from like 9 to 11. And then you got to load out and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically doing 12 plus hour days every day, 5 days a week,
Yeah, you're really like, you're locked in.
you're locked in.
You know?
And so the only way to make it sustainable is if you lock in all your other the personal parts of your life that
Yeah.
allow you to move forward.
This is what I was thinking about when you were talking about having something weighing on your conscience like that while you're playing. Because that sucks. And like, I've always felt like the coolest thing about being a musician and like the actual act of playing music is like the forced presence that you get. There's no checking your phone.
Right.
There's no distractions. Like, you have this opportunity that not a lot of people get to just be like fully just immersed in the moment, at the time. So like, obviously things come up. It's not like it's always going to be just like the greatest show you ever played, but like, if you kind of focus on that as being like, I get to do this, I get to like be at my best for people who are super into it, like, those are like peak moments of life.
Absolutely.
100%.
Totally.
Like, I don't know, I just fucking love it, man.
Well, I feel like that energy, it can kind of go both ways, right? It's like people who are kind of down on it or like have been touring for a long time and they're like, oh, this fucking type of shit again, that's like a virus and can start to infect people.
Yeah, I agree.
But if you can overpower that with the like, we are so blessed to be able to do this,
People can kind of look at you though and be like, what's with this guy?
Yeah, but
Like,
then some other people are like, damn, actually, that's for real, dude.
So you've got this tour now coming up.
Yeah. What
are you gonna focus on? And anything that you like feel specifically like, I want to be able to do this better?
Well, so like I was saying, this is sort of the second half of this long on and off situation. So the next thing I'm leaving to do is really only like 2-3 weeks.
3 weeks is a long time, though.
Yeah, it's a while. We are going to Australia, which, yeah, I'm really excited, but it's also going to be a lot of flying because that country is fucking huge. It's crazy. It's like, it's basically bigger than the continental U.S. So it's like,
it's a continent and a country.
Yeah,
it's a continent.
And it's a continent.
Yeah.
So we're only playing like 6 or 7 shows in that continent.
Yeah.
It's essentially like, it's going to be like playing in the equivalent of New York and then flying to the equivalent of Miami and then flying to the equivalent of Chicago and then flying to the equivalent of Los Angeles.
Yeah, so
and
close.
Then flying to the equivalent of Alaska, basically. It's like, we're just going to be all over. So it's going to be like show, then fly, then show, then fly. So I really don't think there's going to be a lot of time for me to like explore new places or figure out some lifestyle things. I am planning on bringing the yoga mat, so that's kind of something that always keeps me centered, is to be able to like, you wake up in your hotel room, you crack the curtains, and you do a little yoga.
Dude,
sesh.
YouTube yoga is every day. I
changed my life.
Yeah,
every day. Yeah, I wish I was every day.
I wake up. It is the first thing I do. Is I'll do like a 15-minute yoga thing.
I feel like it totally changes the energy of your day. It's kind of the same thing as like the first thing you eat in the day affects your gut health for the day.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like it's the same thing. Well, how do you start your day off as far as food goes? Because it sounds like food is a big part of your kind of glow up.
Yeah, I mean, food I would attribute is like such a huge thing.
Same.
I'm such a creature of habit. Mm-hmm. It's like almost pains me to admit this, but I do have pretty much the same meals at home all the time. First thing is a banana, a handful of either walnuts or almonds. I'll switch it up.
Wow. He likes to keep it fresh, ladies and gentlemen.
I do. And these are raw, not roasted, not salted. And then I'll have usually 3 hard-boiled eggs. For a while I was doing 5.
5?
Yeah.
Oh, that's insane.
No, it's not. Eggs are great.
Oh my
you heard it here first.
5
eggs are great. But
You're not worried about the cholesterol in the yolk?
No, because I got my blood work back. My cholesterol is good, but I have a low white blood cell count. Oh. And they were like, it might be like a miscount. Like maybe you should come in for another check. And I was like, maybe. And I just like did a quick Google on, does vaping lower your white blood cell count?
And absolutely yes.
It does. So I was like, why don't I come back in 6 months if I can be like really good about
Let's see
this.
if the
And
white blood cells are back up.
I just needed a fire, man. I needed something to kind of like finally do it. But like
Yeah.
never. I mean, nicotine has always been my kind of. How many Achilles heels can one person have?
Well, it's all it's. I mean, it's in the ethos of general culture. I feel like nicotine and cigarettes are kind of associated with like AA and Narcan.
That
stuff,
is
right?
true.
So like, do you feel like that was kind of a part of your recovery? Was like you were smoking as like a
No, not
replacement?
really. I started stealing cigarettes out of my dad's car when I was like 15.
Oh yeah.
You
okay.
know,
So
I mean,
it's been a long time.
yeah.
Outside of music, kind of the other thing I care most about is like cooking and food and
Sugar is a
well,
big one.
that's what I was gonna say. It's really easy to fall into like systematic patterns, especially with sugar and foods that like
Yeah.
are immediate dopamine producers. You know?
Yeah.
Like
Oh, I know it.
it's like you stop listening to your body. I think that's a huge thing too. Is like listening to your body about. And this is something I feel like yoga helped me learn how to do too, and therapy too. It's just like listen to what your body needs and just do that. And so
It's hard.
It is. It's super hard. But if you can tap into that when it comes to food, I feel like you have more energy. Your emotions are in check. Like your emotional energy
totally.
isn't out of whack. You know,
Because you're not crashing as much
you're
either.
not crashing. You're not like relying on food as a crutch for brain chemical activity.
Yeah. But it's also why I'm pretty particular about what I do have on the rider. It's
right.
like
And
if
you
there's
need to be. You gotta ask for what you need.
Yeah. Like if there's baby carrots, it's something to crunch on.
Totally.
As opposed to like a bag of chips, which
Right.
is just go like that.
Right.
And
then you want more.
It's tough.
Of those,
Exactly.
Carrots,
I mean,
like you eat like 12 baby carrots. You're like, damn,
yeah,
I'm full.
I'm gonna turn orange.
Yeah. I've never really talked about this, but when I was in high school, I like had an overeating problem. I was like quite overweight. I was also very tall, so it wasn't. I wasn't.
Yeah,
I didn't,
no,
like,
we
look
never
obese,
have.
But at my like heaviest, I was like 260.
That's big.
Which was quite big, yeah. And even though I'm 6'5" almost, it's like.
I thought you were taller.
Really?
No,
Oh yeah,
I don't
7'8", as we said earlier.
Yeah.
You're
afraid of 9.
Well, no, we're afraid of 7 because 7, 8, 9.
No, I'm afraid of 9.
Oh, you're afraid of
Yeah,
9.
it's German.
Oh. Weird time to talk about that in America. We don't have to go there.
No, it's okay. They're used to it.
But yeah, it was in high school. I like had a huge paradigm shift. I was like, okay, I'm fucking 18. I don't want to look like this. I don't want to feel like this.
Yeah.
I want to change myself I want to better myself.
So you went through like a metamorphosis of your own at a
Absolutely.
young age. That's
Absolutely.
cool.
I lost like 50 pounds in like
How'd you do it
3
then?
or 4 months. It was, I mean, basically all the things we're talking about, right? It was like an extreme taking control of the diet and of the activity, the exercise. I was running like 4 or 5 times a week. I was like doing push-ups and lifting weights. And then I was drinking a shit ton of water. Like
Water's a big one.
Water's a huge one. And then I also ate, instead of eating like 2 or 3 big meals a day, I ate like 5 or 6 like small meals.
That's an interesting way to do it.
That ended up speeding up my metabolism. And I also ate basically only like egg whites, chicken breasts, broccoli, spinach. And
See, I think that, I mean,
brown rice and shit.
That's the kind of stuff that you'll lose weight on.
Totally.
Because
And
you
I
don't
did.
have to eat a lot of it and you feel full.
Right.
And like, that's the thing is like the quality of the food that you do eat is going to yield results in some way, That's the hardest thing about being out is just like you're kind of at the mercy of whatever's around.
Totally. One of the tougher things about tour, but it's hard to weigh because, as I was saying earlier, I'm a big food person, and so I am kind of looking for the best shit in town for every dinner that I can. I'm trying to like take in the food scene of each place and like discover new cuisines and, you know, chefs that I like, try to
Yeah.
see what restaurants they have in town and stuff like that.
I get it.
But you are totally at the mercy of restaurant cooking. It's like everything's got butter, and lots of stuff is fried, and lots of stuff has like cream sauces and dairy and stuff. And
Listen, I would eat fried chicken every day of my life if I could, you know, not just because, you know, I don't like what it does to my body. Like it knocks me out.
yeah,
I mean, not that you're asking for advice, but I would just say, you know,
give it to me.
if you can figure out a way to kind of inventory, like, all right, if I'm going to be out at these places, like, okay, for example, you've got like 6-ish days within the 3 weeks that you're out where you'll be like planted in a city, right? So those are your days where it's just like, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to find the food.
Right.
I'm just going to go for it and like not even think twice about it because
Right.
here we are. The travel days, like, you know, have a stash. Like airport days, like don't just get whatever is
the
at the
fucking
airport
bagel
thing.
sandwich
Yeah,
at the-
exactly.
yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
where it's just like I don't need it and it's not even good.
Totally.
You know?
And it's fucking $36 for some bullshit.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you're going to spend the $36 either way,
Yeah, right.
but it's like if you can
Might as
get
well buy your raw almonds and bananas.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I hear you.
They're, you know, very rare at the airport. That's why they cost so much. That's a Jerry Seinfeld joke. He's like, tuna sandwich? He's like, yeah, tuna's very rare here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good call. It also is hard on travel days to fit in an exercise of any sort. I feel like on the show days.
I'll wake up early.
You'll wake up early.
Yeah, it's just like, you know what? Because it's like I guess it's kind of it's a feeling of accomplishment.
Sure,
it's like if I wake up, if lobby call is 7 a.m., I'll get up at 5.
Oh, really? You'll
Yeah,
do it? Yeah.
yeah,
That's,
you know.
I don't really have that in me. It's on the bad time.
Right. And that's valid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
if you're up hanging with the cats till 4 a.m.
you just stay up the extra hour, go
Yeah.
for a run. What about your own like personal stuff? How do you factor that in, like your music that you make while you're out? Like, is there any way to do it? I haven't really figured out a way to do it.
It's
That's why
really
I'm asking,
tough.
honestly. Because honestly, I look at you as somebody who gets shit done.
Yeah.
You know, like it's admirable, and I've been sort of like trying to keep guys like you or even Jake, you know, like you know, people who are like really moving forward of their own volition. Like it's impressive, and
Sure.
and it's not something that I find
Thank
very
you.
easy
I
to
appreciate
do.
that.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's a bit of a chronic illness the way I feel like I need to be always doing shit, and it's definitely
I don't have that.
weighed on my past relationships and friendships where I'm like constantly trying to be in motion and completing tasks, you know. But I've done a lot with my life, which is great. It's the working on the solo projects, the personal project stuff while you're out working for someone else is really tough.
Yeah.
And I've never truly found a great way to do it. I have bought a couple items that have helped, particularly this little portable interface, this iRig, those kind of things where like it's literally like an interface that's like this big.
Yeah.
You throw it in your computer bag.
No, you know what I have is the Apogee 1.
Yeah.
I've had it for like 15 years.
Same thing, you know. So you plug it in. If you're in your hotel room, you can like, you know, you grab a guitar from the van or whatever, and you can demo out some stuff.
Dude, it made a whole record while I was on a tour, and
Oh, really?
I was drinking a lot.
Oh, yeah. So you forgot about it.
I haven't even thought about it.
I mean, look, that's how it goes, and it's like.
But yeah,
a lot
no,
of the
I do
stuff
have that.
A lot of the stuff I have made in that regard ends up never seeing the light of day.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's almost just.
But
like,
you're still being creative.
Yeah, it's almost like a muscle that you're trying to keep.
Dude,
in
creativity is a muscle.
Absolutely.
I think about this, and I've been
Absolutely.
thinking about it a lot more now too, because I've been really motivated to try to put out more stuff.
Sure.
And I've been getting so frustrated, or I had been, I should say, because I was like, I
coming
must
to
have
understand.
writer's block.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've had writer's block for the last 5 years. It's like, no. It's because I'm not dedicating myself to this thing as much. So after the initial spark of an idea comes up, I lose steam and I just don't follow through.
Totally.
So I'm like, no, that's not fair to my creative side, you know?
I mean, it's a time and a priorities thing. I mean, this is something that has sort of plagued my project with one of my best friends.
You can plug it.
I'll plug it. Yeah, the breathing effect.
There you go.
My boy Eli,
Podcast
Eli
101.
Goss, shout out Eli.
Love you, Eli.
He's put up with me for a long time.
Yeah, we all have.
Kind of. Yeah, we all have. They all have put up with me for a long time. Sort of putting the career before the art a little bit. And in some ways, it's been really good for me because I've found myself like achieving a lot of my goals of 10 plus years,
Yeah.
which feels really great. But you also start to lose the creative like tactility, the creative dexterity, and you have to like fit. What I've found is I have to like choose my moments of like which gear to shift into, and that's kind of where I've been. I'm actually like, I'm not sad, but I'm a little torn that I'm about to go on this tour because it's my job and I agreed to it and it's what I do.
And it'll be fun.
It'll be super fun. But I've been home after the last run. I've been home now for almost 2 months, and it has allowed me to really get into my personal project creative stuff, which I've been making a lot of progress on, and I've been doing a lot of writing sessions, and I have a lot of stuff cooking, a lot of stuff in the oven. And I am a little disappointed that I have to kind of stop that creative momentum right now to go do something else. But I will only be gone for 3 weeks, and then I'm home for another month or something. So so I'm hoping the momentum will it'll be easy to find when I'm back, so that I can get back into the but like you're saying, it takes time to build that muscle back up. So I'm hoping when I look for that muscle when I'm home in a month that it'll be not far.
And hopefully, even now, like talking about this stuff now, will give you some kind of a way to bring, like some definitive goals, even small ones with you on the road, just to
that's
like,
a good point,
Listen, I'm out here doing what I can for you, bud.
Yes, one leg at a time, baby.
OLAAT. Well, dude, I mean, this has been great. Is there anything else that you want to get into? Yeah. Say to the people, say to me.
Say to you. I mean, I don't know if I've officially told you, but it's been inspiring for me to kind of see your transformation over the past couple of years and see that because look, I mean, it's all coming from you, it's like your decisions and your willpower to sort of like, let your best light shine through. Not to mention, I feel like, I didn't even know it was possible, but I feel like your like guitar playing is better than ever. I feel like
I appreciate it.
I just feel like your musicianship is at such a high level that it's always a pleasure to be around you and hang. And
man, that's very gracious of you to say that, and it means a lot coming from you too. I've always loved you, man. I mean, you're an incredible guy. You're an incredible player.
Should we hug for the cam?
Sure. This is an one leg exclusive right here. Intimacy.
One intimate friendship at a time.
Oh, brother. Well, you're a beautiful person. You're a beautiful soul. Thanks for opening your home.
Oh, a true pleasure.
Yeah.
Have the one leg at a time mobile studio in my.
And if you want us to come to your house and interview you, just kidding.